Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Samantha. I am the knitter, knitwear designer, blogger, PhD student, all of those really exciting things behind the Strikkechick. I know that last week I put out a finished object, works in progress, and acquisitions, although I didn't have any acquisitions video for you guys because it's been a while since I made one of those. And so then I was thinking, wait, what do I do this week? Because I've just gone through everything. Turns out I did quite a lot of knitting last week. So I do actually have another finished object, works in progress, and acquisitions, because now I have new stuff, video for you today. So yeah, if you're into that, then that's what we're going to be talking about for the next half hour or however long I think this podcast is going to be. We're going to start off as usual with what I'm wearing, which actually is one of the finished objects that I showed you guys in the last video. This is my Modius Genzo. I think you can see the pattern pretty well. It's only really, the color work is up here, and it's a very relaxed fit sweater. It is, so the Modius motif or design is a very traditional Norwegian not Norwegian fair isle, Norwegian colorwork design that was popularized by a skier in the 1900s, 1940s, 1950s, do not quote me on it. But it has become kind of a quintessential print that you see everywhere in Norway. Just today, actually, my fiance and I were shopping at a home goods store, and we saw spatulas with the Modius print on them. So it is everywhere in Norway. And this sweater specifically is from a kit called the Modius Yule collection. So this is Sandnes Garn. They're a yarn company in Norway, and they, I think, are the official owners of the Modius pattern. So they put out a kit last year, or like a catalog, I guess, right before Christmas. That was the Modius Yule, or Modius Christmas collection. And what differentiated this Modius from the others is that it is knit on very thick needles. I used 9mm needles for this project, and it is knit in a top-down raglan. Top-down circular yoke, as opposed to the traditional drop shoulder fit of a regular Modius sweater. So I was really into this. I liked the idea of something that could knit up very quickly, and I wanted something that was, I didn't want drop shoulder because I feel like with a very intricate pattern like that, I lose my motivation to knit the sleeves in pattern after I finish the whole body. So this was perfect. So I bought the yarn for this, which was Sandnes Garn Koss and Sandnes Garn Borstet Alpaca in the shade Off-White, and then in like this cobalt blue color. But I didn't actually get to cast it on before Christmas because I was working on something else. I don't quite remember what over Christmas time. But it just never got cast on, and that was it was just sitting there in my yarn stash. And a couple weeks ago I picked it up and I was like, well, I really want this sweater in my wardrobe, like now. So I knit it. I started knitting it actually on a knit and chat that I filmed and posted a couple weeks ago, and then like 2 weeks later it was completely finished because it is a very quick knit, and I did shorten the body quite a bit because I have a short torso, and also because I don't like sweaters that go up over my hips. I like to have a little bit of breathing room, and I like my sweaters to be kind of cropped so I can wear them with high-waisted skirts and pants and shorts and all of that good stuff. So this is my Modius Yule sweater, and it is very, very soft, very comfortable. Highly recommend if you are looking for a Modius pattern but you don't want to knit the traditional 3mm needles and drop shoulder design. So moving on, my first and only finished object for you guys today is something that you saw as a work in progress on my last episode. This is the Meffjord sweater oh my gosh, you guys, I am so happy with how this turned out. I'm gonna have a video of me or photos or something of me wearing it so that you can see it better. But this sweater is knit in Cardiff cashmere, which is the softest yarn I have ever worked with. It is incredible. It felt so nice to knit, and I think that's why it knit up so fast, was just because I could not stop touching the yarn to knit. And I don't know what it was about, just everything about the yarn. It's wonderful. It feels so luxurious. It's mostly in Strikkechick, so this is from the top down. It's my own design, so I wanted something that would be very classic and elegant and just kind of complement the very, very nice yarn. So it is mostly Strikkechick, and you have raglan increases from the top down, and then you knit everything in Strikkechick until you get to the cuffs. And the cuffs are like, you know how you knit a double knit button band usually for cardigans? I used the same kind of technique, but I put cables at the cuffs. So you have this little cable for the sleeve, and then you have a bigger cable, like a more intricate cable. See if you can see that. I don't know. I hope you can. A more intricate cable on the body. And I knit it so it's a little bit more cropped than my usual sweater. I do prefer cropped sweaters, as I mentioned before, but this is a little bit more cropped than that because I wanted it to sit at my natural waistline so that the belt could or the little cable at the bottom of the sweater could look like an actual belt, and so that it would be nice to wear over dresses. And also high-waisted skirts. It does sit, right now, it sits about 2 centimeters below my natural waistline, just for a little bit of a, what is it called? A little bit of wiggle room in case you're moving your arms around or something. It's not gonna just ride up instantly, but it does sit very, very close to my natural waistline. And that is how I have designed the sweater to be knit. So I hope to, I am so behind on writing up patterns and putting them out for testing. I think I've been going through a little bit of a kind of, I like to knit. So I've been knitting a lot, and then I finish my designs and I'm like, all right, I will write up the pattern for that. And then it just kind of sits there. So I will make myself kick into gear and write the pattern for this, and then hopefully put it out for testing pretty soon. I think the plan, because I'm pretty much, I'm not done with releases for the season because I still do have 2 sweaters that are in testing, or 1 sweater that's out of testing and I just haven't released, and then 1 sweater that is still in testing and will release very soon. And so I will release those before the summer. But this one, I think, is going to be an autumn release. So it's not that urgent. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to get this out there. I heard so much great feedback on the last video about how much you guys liked the cables. Thanks so much for that, because I don't know, that was what was motivating me to get to the bottom of this sweater, was I can't wait to knit this little cable at the bottom. And I was just so proud of myself after it was done. And so it feels really, really nice to hear that other people like it too. Because it was a very experimental little design detail that I was going with, but I am really happy with how it turned out. And yes, stay tuned for the Meffjord sweater if you are also interested in knitting one of your own. And the reason it's named Meffjord sweater, I forgot to mention, it's because my fiance and I are taking a trip over to Senja. I want to say next week because I can't wait for Easter break, but I think it's 2 weeks from now. So Senja is this beautiful area in northern Norway with lots of really nice mountains. It's like a 3-4 hour drive out of Tromsø. So we're going to go there. We're going to stay in a hotel room that has a sauna and a hot tub. We're so excited. A little bit of rest and relaxation. And the place that we're staying at is in a part of Senja called Meffjord. And I want to bring this sweater along with me and photograph it there. And so I named it the Meffjord sweater for that location that we're going to. Yes. So now we are going to move on to some works in progress. And I have 3 to show you. And most of them are color work. because that's just what's been on my needles. Ooh, hello, at the moment. And everything's getting tangled. The first one is this, which is, it's all over the place. This is a sweater that I am working on with my leftover fat mohair, or like chunky mohair yarns. And that can include, so what I've used for this yet unnamed sweater design is Dallegarn Meek Påfugel, which is a mohair yarn I've used pretty extensively in the past. I have some Sandnesgarn Borstet Alpaca in here. I have some Drops Melody. Yeah, so that's basically the extent of it. So I tried to make like a little gradient. I'm just trying to like move it through so you can kind of see. I have a sleeve basically done. I just need the cuff. So yeah, that's my little gradient that I have going on with my leftover mohairs. And I was going for something that was a little bit sunsetty, but I can't really decide if that's what I ended up with. And it's also kind of hard for me to tell how, because like obviously I wanted to try it on when I was knitting the sleeve so that I could kind of see how much longer I needed to knit it. And at that point, I wasn't entirely sure of my color choice. I was like, there is a lot of yellow at the top of this sweater. And I don't know if the color transitions are exactly the way that I was kind of imagining them to be in my head. But yeah, I mean, it's a way for me to use up my leftover mohair. And I'm not abandoning it just yet. I want to finish knitting the body, knit the other sleeve, kind of try it on all together. Because I think another thing that was throwing me off when I tried this on was that I counted, like the way that I swatched and blocked and then kind of measured the tension or the gauge to knit my sweater. I wanted it to have like around 20 centimeters of positive ease at the bust. And this kind of yarn tends to really grow when it's blocked. So now that I'm knitting it and it's not, I mean, obviously it's not the right dimensions. So when I try it on, it feels really tight and kind of like, it just looks different than what I'd imagined in my head. And I feel like that's kind of throwing me off because I'm like, okay, but it isn't supposed to look like this. Like the body is just way too tight, or the bust area at least when I finish the yoke. But hopefully that's a problem that fixes itself with blocking, because I do know that it grows quite a bit when it's blocked. So maybe I'll be happier with it, because I was really happy when I showed you guys in my last video where it was this transition from this blue to here and then adding in the yellow. And now I'm like, I don't know. What do you guys think? It's this, like, do you think this is an okay transition, or, yeah. I'm curious to hear, because I get all up in my head about this stuff, right? Especially when I'm, like, I feel like with colors, like the reason why I haven't done a lot of designs with color work is because color schemes and color transitions and all of that is a really hard concept for me personally. Like, I think as a designer, I'm really good with textures. I'm good with figuring out what cables look good with what other cables and kind of putting them together in a way that, like the air pullover, if you guys remember when I showed you that, it's a very kind of, it's a really nice, I think, if I'm allowed to, say so myself, I think it's a really nice cable sweater design, just because it all kind of fits together so cohesively. And I think that's definitely where my strength lies. But then when it comes to colors, I get a little bit overwhelmed. I don't think that I have, like, okay, so if you put me on a spectrum and like Anne Wenzel, who is like, oh my God, she is so amazing with colors, right? Like if you've seen her designs like the Spot sweater or the Robina sweater, and she just did in leftover yarns, and it's like, I can't believe that was leftover yarn, because her color matching is just, it's incredible. And I think compared to that, maybe it's a problem that I am comparing myself to that, but I think compared to that, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I am on choosing my colors and kind of getting a good gradient going. And yeah, so maybe that's something that I hope to improve on in the future. I think it's a bit of a challenge for me personally, but it is, yeah, it's something that I'm hoping to get better at. So any feedback, really, that you guys can give me, keep it nice, but I would still love to hear honest opinions on what you think about this. Yes, and this is unnamed, and I have no clue when it's coming out, but we will see. in the future. And I'm trying not to I have this little place where I'm dropping all my knits after I show you, and I'm trying not to have anything fall off it onto my floor, but it's a struggle for sure. Okay, second work in progress. So this is completely new. You guys have never seen this because this is a new cast on. This is the Rewind sweater test knit for Nipserina is her Instagram handle. Her name is Katrina, and she is the owner of Hip Wool, which is I've talked about Hip Wool before. I bought a box of new Magic Forest green Hip Wool when they were having a sale. But yeah, she owns Hip Wool, and she posted a picture of this sweater on Instagram, and she called for test knitters, and she sponsored the yarn very kindly. So I have been knitting the Rewind sweater in this really, really nice ice blue base. And then you've got these accent colors. She actually sent me 6, even though the pattern only calls for 2. It calls for 4, so she sent me 2 extra contrast colors, which is very nice. So I kind of really get to pick and choose. Needles. I don't know if you can hear the clacking, but they're clacking. And yeah, this is knit in 1 strand of Hip Wool, which is 100% wool, and 1 strand of mohair. Well, most of the colors have mohair in them. This little blue doesn't come with a matching mohair, but all the other colors do. So this is it's really, really soft. I love the way it feels. It's knitting up on 7mm needles. So the struggle here is my leftover mohair sweater that I showed you guys. That is being knit on 7mm needles as well. So I'm doing a lot of needle swapping based on which project I feel like working on at the time. But obviously this does take priority because it's a test knit for her. So it has a deadline, and she sponsored wool. So, fair play. This gets done first. So I'm working on the body right now. It is a drop shoulder sweater from the top down. So I really like this. I think I learned my lesson from the Farnham sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl, where I accidentally picked up stitches on the wrong side of the fabric. But this one, I did not make that mistake. And I really, really like the way that this join at the top looks. I think it just... I'm really proud of myself. I think I picked up stitches in a good spot, because when you look, and I know you can't see it, but when you kind of look at these patterns together, they almost line up on the front and back. And so I'm really proud of that. And yeah, I'm now knitting in the round, which is wonderful because I do not like purling. I'm just not a big fan. So knitting back and forth for the front and back was a bit rough, but now that I've joined, I think it's gonna go a lot faster. And the colors, I'm not entirely sure, but I will definitely have a Ravelry project page set up where I have all the colors inputted into in there. So you can see if there's anything you particularly like. I am a big fan of this blue. I think that is super duper pretty. Yeah. It's the color of my skirt. I know you guys can't see my skirt, but that's the same color. I think I'm drawn to this at the moment, specifically. Yes. So I think she's planning on having this pattern released later this year, maybe in April might be the plan, because we have a very quick turnaround as testers to meet the deadline. And then at that point, she should have kits in the Hip Knit shop as well to knit this. So yeah, that is the Rewind sweater, and I am super excited to keep knitting this and to wear it, because it does feel like it's going to be a really, really nice 80s inspired hiking sweater, and I am here for it. I love it. I could definitely see myself running around the mountains wearing this in the future. So that will be hopefully finished by the time I talk to you guys next time, assuming it is another finished objects and acquisitions and works in progress video. Okay, so this isn't very impressive, but this is my last work in progress. And I cast this on the day that I did my Lingen sweater release, because I'm thinking of making a new tradition for myself, where when I release a pattern, I cast on something new. And it doesn't have to be something that I've designed myself. I just wanted to because I get really stressed about releases when I do them. I panic about, are people gonna like this? Are people gonna buy it? I don't know, like, are there going to be comments on my Ravelry page about it or what? And so I get all up in my head about release day, and I let it psych me out. So I've decided to take release day and make it something, I don't know, like a start of a new beginning or something by casting on something new. And that is what I did when I released the Lingen pullover. I cast on for the Aegyo sweater by, no, not the Aegyo sweater, I'm sorry, the Euros sweater by Aegyo Knit. Because the Euros sweater has been on my Ravelry queue for a while. It is a really, really nice cable knit sweater, but it's knit from, like, it's knit sideways. So you knit the sleeve first, seamlessly, and then you knit the body, and then you knit the other sleeve. And I think the part where you do have to join is when you knit the body, and then you join together after you're done knitting, which does seem a lot nicer, I think, because it has a cable pattern on it, so you can see what exactly matches up where. So I'm not too worried about that seaming. Usually if I have to seam stockinette, I get all kinds of, I don't know, I get panicky about it because I don't want to kind of miss a stitch or sew something in, like, where it's kind of wonky. But if you have, like, little guidelines, like cables, and like the way I see them are like little grids, right, that help you make sure everything is aligned and where it needs to be. So I am knitting the Euros sweater in Drops Air, in the shade, I want to say this is like a heather kind of shade. It's pink heather, or it's raspberry. I'll put the shade name in my Ravelry page so you guys know. But I did also talk about this specific Drops Air on my Drops Air yarn review, if you're interested in hearing more about Drops Air, because I think it's a really versatile, really, really nice, affordable yarn. And affordability is important to me at the moment because I am a PhD student. So yeah, that does mean that I don't have that much money to kind of, I would love to buy more expensive yarns, but here we are. So yeah, I use a lot of Drops Air, and I am using Drops Air for the Euros sweater, and I am so excited to see how it turns out. I think this is going to be a really nice color. I've been kind of waffling back and forth between, so when I started knitting, I was a very bright color sweater kind of person, which does deviate from what you normally see on Instagram and just social media in general. I think people tend to go for more muted colors and more neutrals. And I've been going through a little bit of a phase where I'm like, I prefer neutrals. I like neutrals. I want more sweaters that are wardrobe staples that I can just yank and wear with whatever, where I don't have to plan a whole outfit around the sweater. But then I also at the same time really enjoy my colorful sweaters. So I like to have at least one sweater going at a time where one is a neutral, which I just cast off actually. That was my Cardiff cashmere sweater. And then one kind of very colorful sweater. So right now I've got very colorful knits on the needles. All of them are very colorful. So I think the next thing that I cast on will be a more neutral sweater. Just so like when I'm like, oh, but I want, I want something more versatile in my wardrobe, I can go to the neutral. Or when I'm like, I just want to work with a very interesting, colorful yarn, I can go to a sweater like this. So yeah, there's options. And yes, that is my, I hope to have more progress on this. I think it'll really depend on when I finish the test knit, and also I really want to finish my leftover mohair sweater. So I have like an order to my to my works in progress. I'm just using the wrong term for everything today. I am sorry, you guys. But yeah, and I also have a couple works in progress that I am not showing you guys today because I haven't really done a lot of, or I haven't progressed much on them. So I still have a Lillehammer 94 Genzer that I'm working on, which is the official Olympic, the Norwegian ski team Olympic sweater from 1994. And I also have a Soleil vest for my mom that I have to give her in the summer. That is almost done, but I still haven't made more progress on it. So I haven't shown you guys those, but I do have them and I am actively working on them, or I should be actively working on them. More than I am at the moment anyway. So yeah, we'll see. There's a lot to choose from in terms of what to work on. So yes, to be determined for both me and you in the next podcast. We're on acquisitions now. So I know I showed you the work in progress from the hip knit shop, but technically the yarn is an acquisition too. And it came in this really nice bag that she sent that it says Hip Knit Shop on it, which is really sweet. And then she sent, I mean, you've obviously seen, this is the color that I really, really like. And the colors that I haven't used yet are this shade of hip wool that everything has a really fun name. What is this name? Meadow Green. And this color, which is Green Apple. I would not have called that Green Apple, but I think it's really pretty. It's like a very neon-y green, and I like it. And the main color, which is this strand of Must Have Mint with buried all the way at the bottom of the bag. Very buried at the bottom of the bag. Pale blue. So the qualities of hip wool and hip mohair, and these obviously, I've talked about this before on the podcast, but hip wool, their whole brand, or I guess Hip Knit Shop, then not hip wool. Hip Knit Shop does all kinds of yarn. They have a pop merino, which is a 100% merino wool that's a bit thinner than this. They have hip wool, which is it's not roving, it's just, it's a single ply, very chunky wool yarn. It reminds me a little bit of the Petite Wool by We Are Knitters. And they have mohair, they have fluff, which is kind of like, it's about the same kind of yarn that would go into my chunky mohair sweater because it's a much bigger mohair or a thicker mohair than this. And they kind of, the way that they seem to market is they aim at a lot of younger knitters because they're very kind of 80s centric. They have some very vibrant sweaters. It's a very relaxed, oversized fit. It's very cool, very trendy, and that's what they try to really project in their brand. This wool, hip wool, is 100% chunky, woolicious wool. That's how they market it. And it is 50 grams, and you get 80 meters in 50 grams. And the gauge is 17 stitches, is 10 centimeters on 6 millimeter needles. But they say you can use needles that are anywhere from 5 to 8. So the pattern that Katrina sent me for this test knit, she has you use 7 millimeter needles, but you hold hip wool and hip mohair together. And I think this is all Peruvian Highland wool. Yes, it is fine Highland wool made in Peru. That is hip wool. And hip mohair is, it's like air mohair. It's 80% mohair and 20% polyamide. And it's interesting, right? Because most mohairs, they have like a silk core or a silk thread or something, and this mohair does not. It's all mohair and polyamide, which is kind of interesting. I wonder how that then, I don't know, how that's different in terms of like how it blocks, how it wears. That would be interesting to see. I will definitely report back to you guys after I've finished the sweater and worn it a couple times and just kind of seen what it behaves like. And they recommend 3.5 millimeter needles. That's pretty standard. 28 stitches is 10 centimeters. And let's see, they say luxury yarn from South Africa. So it's South African mohair. Yes. So yeah, it's a whole bag of yarn, which is really exciting. I can always use more tote bags because I use them as project bags. So after I finish this sweater and I use up all of this wonderful yarn, I will have another tote bag for my projects in the future, which is really exciting. I at this point, I use my like the little plastic bags that you buy yarn in when you go to your local yarn store. But I don't know, I just feel like a little bit more elevated and professional and kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm carrying around my tote project bag. I'm so cool and hipster, I knit. So yeah, that's the plan when I have finished the Rewind sweater. Yes. I hope you enjoyed seeing my finished object and works in progress and my my Hip Knit Shop yarn today. I would absolutely love to hear what you are working on. I love inspiration, you guys. Keep it coming. I will never be able to knit everything on my to knit list, and also I design, so that kind of takes away time as well. But I really, really love to live vicariously through you and see what you are making and what yarn you're using. So definitely hit me with a comment, let me know. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe. And if you want to see when more videos come out, you can hit the little bell and you'll be notified when I release a new video. And if you want to come over and say hi somewhere else, if YouTube comments maybe aren't your jam, then I am over on Instagram and Ravelry and TikTok as the Strikkechick, and you can also find me on my own website, thestrikkechick.com. Until next time, you guys, happy knitting! Bye!